Are you looking for a premier golf course in Northwest Mississippi or the Memphis, Tennessee area? Well, look no further than Cherokee Valley Golf Club in Olive Branch. It's less than 15 minutes from the Memphis International Airport and is one of the finest in the Magnolia State. The 18-hole par 72 course includes 4 sets of tees, 11 lakes, 52 bunkers. Might be a little intimidating, but those wide Zoysia fairways and extra-large Champion Bermuda greens and clean roughs will make for an excellent opportunity to post a number. You can also check out the lodge-style clubhouse. So if you're in the area and you're looking for a premier golf experience, look no further than Cherokee Valley Golf Club in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Check them out, olivebranchgolf.com, or you can give them a call, 662-893-4444.
Welcome in to this Thursday edition of the Flagship. I am your host, Zach Berry. This show brought to you each and every day of the week by our good friends at College Corner. 3 locations, Oxford, Richmond, Flowood. If you can't get to a brick and mortar, it's all good. They got you at collegecornerstore.com. Baseball's getting cranked up. We always warn you. Always going to be one weekend where it's going to be cold as hell. And I think it's this weekend as Ole Miss hosts Iowa. If you need an extra hoodie, maybe a little quarter zip, long sleeve, go to College Corner. They got you covered. All Ole Miss stuff all the time. 4,000 square feet on Sisk Avenue in Oxford. Fantastic place. Scott and the folks over there will take care of you. You need to get some warm clothes for that 3-game slate this weekend against the Hawkeyes, as Ole Miss is now back over 500 after a little bit of a rough start. But go over there, College Corner, get you some merch. All right, we got our guy, Stephen Hartzell, in the building. We're going to talk some Ole Miss hoops. My man, purveyor of fine audio at Learfield. That's just probably one of the coolest Twitter bios out there. Does podcasts for College Sports Now, Hand in the Dirt. Steven, good morning. Appreciate you joining. How we doing?
Yeah, Zach, good to see you, man. I'm great. It's a weird day. It's the leap day.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for it to be March. Most years this is March 1st, but we're here anyway on a bonus day in February.
Yeah.
Talking hoops, man. No, life is good. Getting ready for the SEC tournament, and I think Nashville is going to be way more bonkers than usual this year because the SEC is a league, bro. It's really good. Like I'm not just toting the water for the SEC. Like they have got some really intriguing storylines and some really good teams, man. Ole Miss about a month or 2 ago was on that list, but yeah, losing 6 of your last 7 ain't gonna get it done, man. So the Rebs are on the outside looking in, unfortunately.
Yeah, real quick, you mentioned Leap Day. Big ups. Happy birthday to Monty Kiffin. He's a Leap Day baby. So technically 21 years old today.
Oh, okay.
So good for Monty. He can now go out and hit up Funky's or one of the bars in Oxford. All right, yeah, let's get into it. So Ole Miss last night got out to a 14-point lead, taking it to Nate Oates in Alabama, and then Alabama just does what Alabama does. They weather the storm. Ole Miss got cold, couldn't rebound. The defending was just something. Oh, it wasn't good. Bama rolls. Right now, it's looking like Ole Miss is not even on the bubble at all. We were recording, I guess, Tuesday, Wednesday. Jerry Palm, Joe Lenardi had them anywhere from, last 4 in to first 4 out. Now, not even seeing them on the list. In your opinion, is this kind of a win out and then make some noise in Nashville type scenario, or do you think Ole Miss would have to win the whole damn thing in Nashville?
Well, the good news is the rest of the regular season is pretty manageable by SEC standards. At Missouri, got to have it, obviously. At Georgia, very gettable. And then home to Texas A&M, the Aggies are a team, that's kind of fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. So there's no Tennessee on there. There's no Auburn, right? Like, there's no Kentucky. Like, by SEC standards, that's gettable. So win out, which, again, you've lost 6 of 7. That's not a given. But, yeah, it's still probably a team that's going to have to make a run into the weekend in Nashville just to remind people. Now, look, I feel like you and everybody else was aware of what Ole Miss was coming into this year, and that going to the tournament in Chris Beard's first season it'd be great, but not expected, right? Like, if they had gotten there, and they still can, then, hey, you're a year ahead of schedule. But, with NIL and with the machine that is NIL at Ole Miss, shoot, you can flip that roster over, by the time you get to May or June. I mean, you could have a really dangerous squad. So, yeah, we'll see, man. But, yeah, you mentioned the game last night. Alabama is those guys are just a microwave on offense. Like, what they've been able to do this year, 10 games, breaking 100 points, that hasn't been done in the SEC in over 30 years. I don't think it's ever been done. When they hit 9, they tied the 95-96 Kentucky team, which, of course, won a national championship.
Yeah.
With Reed Shepherd's father, among others, Tony Delk, Ron Mercer. I mean, just a loaded squad back in the mid-'90s when college basketball was a completely different sport than it was today. So,
yeah. I figured the Loyola Marymount teams would have had that record.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in the SEC. I mean, the SEC historically is a very physical league that prides itself on, just defense. And now you've got Alabama doing their thing. Hell, Tennessee's out here breaking 90 on every given night. Auburn can run up and down the floor. Kentucky is, just mercurial on offense. Like, these guys are I think you're going into Nashville, Zach, with like 5 teams, maybe 6, if you count South Carolina and Florida, that have a chance of maybe winning this thing. Like, there's some intriguing talent in this league, man. So it's going to be a fun tournament. Yeah,
I've seen it at certain points throughout the year. National pundits saying the SEC could get 8 or 9 in. Now with Ole Miss sliding, it'd probably be 7 or 8. And the Mississippi State's on the bubble too. Could still get in though. But man, going back to Bama, just to give you an idea of how good Alabama is and how good they played last night, just how well of an offensive unit it is. Jamin Brakefield had 21. Alan Flanagan had 28. Matthew Morrell, not a good night, but still had 12. Ole Miss shot 52% from the field and 36 from deep, and still lost 103-88.
Yeah. The Nate Oates story is an interesting one, man, because, like, when this guy came over from Buffalo, I think folks in the southeastern part of the country were like, who's this guy? What's he all about? Yeah. I know Bama's not a basketball school historically, but his whole philosophy on offense is like, take threes and take dunks. Don't worry about the rest of the floor. Like, jack up as many threes as you want. Eventually they'll fall. But, it's all about, a 3 is worth more than 2, obviously. But if you're going to take 2s, take them at the rim. Yeah. Like, if you look at the shot chart for Bama, man, nobody's taking mid-range jumpers. Now, that's basketball in general these days. Just look at the NBA. But it's working, right? And, Bama, I think Bama's they're ranked 7th in Ken Palm. They have like a net of 6. But, like, they're also in that group is like Auburn and Tennessee. And, Kentucky on their best day, as we've seen in the last 2 weeks, like, they can go to Auburn, hold that team under 60 at the Jungle, which nobody thought was possible. Like, they're capable of putting up 90. They got maybe 2 lottery picks coming off the bench with Reed and Dillingham. So it's crazy. I'm telling you, it's going to make for an awesome week in Nashville. I'll actually be there. We cover every game of the tournament on the SEC Radio Network, so we'll be in our little perch there, courtside, taking it in. And I think it's going to be awesome. Well, Tennessee's got a shot for a number 1 seed if they can if they can stay afloat here, they got a brutal stretch to close the regular season, including a road game at Alabama Saturday. But
that's a murderer's row finish for them.
At Bama, at South Carolina, home to Kentucky. I think I'm just doing it off the top of the head. But those are 3 top 20 teams. 2 of them are on the road. So
yeah.
But the thing with Rick Barnes is, man, we've seen this before going back to Texas. That guy has been coaching forever. You know how many Final Fours he has? 1.
Oh, 1. Okay.
1 at Texas in like 2002.
I say, was that like TJ Ford?
Yeah, man. You gotta go in the Wayback Machine. They made the Final Four 2003.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and look at the 02-03 Texas roster. But yeah, that's it. This guy perennially underachieves in the NCAA tournament. And he's got a great this Tennessee team, dude, they got old guys like Josiah Jordan-James. They got Zakai Ziegler. That guy, Santiago Vescovi's been in the league. That guy's like 35 years old.
I was going to say he's been there 9 years.
And then you've got this Dalton Connect kid who, it's a great story, man. Like, this guy was playing like D3 ball, I think, in Colorado, D2. And they bring him over. And this guy's going to win SEC Player of the Year. I mean, he went for 39 last night. Like, this dude, he's incredible. Like, I've seen Dalton Connect, Zach, as like a lottery pick in some of these draft projections. And nobody knew who this guy was 6 months ago. So that's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I was bummed. I was in Knoxville for that Ole Miss Tennessee game when Tennessee waxed Ole Miss.
Courtside, man. You were in the high dollar seats.
I was on the floor, Indian style with the camera, and I was like, well, at least I'll get to see Dalton Connect. And he played terrible. So I didn't even get to see him go off. But yeah, I was watching that game last night where, man, Auburn gave Tennessee all they could handle, and Tennessee just, steady Eddie, man. They just, with Connect, it's like you said, 39. Just a really good team of, like you said, old guys. They got talent. They got rebound. The Adu guy, he stays out of foul trouble. He's gobbling up every rebound. Yeah. And they just got a bucket getter and Connect. That just it's hard to combat. So, I think with the league, looking at the standings, Tennessee, Alabama up top at 12-3. South Carolina 11-4, Auburn 10-5, Kentucky 10-5. I mean, it's a pretty top-heavy league, but then probably looking at least 2 or 3 more that could get into the dance if some things go their way.
Yeah, Florida's going. I mean, they've won 9 of 11. I don't even think they're considered on the bubble right now, just based on what they've done. Mississippi State, tournament quality team. I know they let that one get away against Kentucky in the midweek. I mean, they were up double digits on the Cats and just couldn't close the door. So yeah, I think, certainly the projections, like you mentioned a couple weeks ago, that had Ole Miss and A&M getting into the field, and you're looking at maybe a 9-bid league. Both of those programs have work to do, but the thing with being a top 4 team in the standings is you get that double bye. You don't have to take the floor in Nashville till Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a world of difference when you're trying to win this thing. So, yeah, I think Florida's hot right now. I mean, South Carolina steadied the ship. They beat A&M at the buzzer on Wednesday night. Otherwise, they were looking at having dropped 3 of their last 4. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of intrigue here, and it's funny because I get a chance to talk to SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey at this tournament every year, and like basketball for him, men's basketball specifically, has been a priority because, like, you think about what the SEC does very well, obviously football, women's basketball, it's become the dominant conference in America. Baseball, no brainer. Softball, no brainer. Okay, women's volleyball, work to be done. Track and field, you've got Arkansas and Florida winning national championship. Like they're good at everything except men's basketball. So this has been a priority for him. And in the last couple of years, man, this league has got rock star head coaches, including Chris Beard in Oxford. For obvious, I mean, now we know how he got there, right? But still, like, you've got a league that is filled with great head coaches. As much as we make fun of Rick Barnes, like that guy's he's one of the winningest active head coaches in D1. John Calipari, I mean Buzz Williams, like you got guys, man, you got guys. So I think it's going to be an interesting postseason, and we'll see what happens in the NCAA tournament, man. It's all about matchups, but Tennessee vying for a 1, Auburn, Bama in the mix for a 2, and then some really dangerous 4 seeds like Kentucky, South Carolina. It's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it.
You mentioned Beard. Before we get out of here, I do want to ask you kind of an overarching question about college sports in general, but him specifically. Earlier in the year, Auburn and Ole Miss played, and there was a good quote from Bruce Pearl where he told Chris Beard, like, hey, it took me 4 years to get where you're at in year 1. With, Bruce Pearl out of the gate at Auburn, struggled, took him a little bit, and then they go to an Elite 8. Kind of a similar thing here where Beard at Texas Tech in year 1, kind of a similar year to what Ole Miss is having now. Get out to a hot start, win a bunch of non-conference games, catch a couple people in conference, and then everything kind of falls kind of chalk the rest of the way where, first-year coach, you don't really have your roster where it's at. How big of a deal is it for coaches like him and fan bases like him in this day and age in 2024 that want everything now? That no one has any patience. It's not like, hey, let's let him build his roster. Let's let him build his team. Because there are some programs that immediate success year 1 with the guy, and they're going to the tournament. How big of a hurdle is that for coaches, not just Beard specifically, but just everyone, where it's people have to just, hey, you just got to wait. And, Nate Oates, same way. Took him a little bit. Now look at him. So how big of a deal is that for coaches these days, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's a different conversation in 2024 than it was 3-4 years ago, where you're recruiting freshmen who you expect to develop into sophomores and then upperclassmen, and you're going to have guys in your program. Now that still happens at smaller schools, and it happens, in D2 and D3 all the time. But the portal and NIL and these guys chasing the bag, which, look, I don't fault these student athletes if there's an opportunity to go and make $500,000 to go play at a place for 6 months. I get it, man. That's the business of college sports today. That may change in a couple of years, but I think it's all about perspective, right? If you're at Wisconsin, or look at Ohio State, who just fired their head coach, or a place where you're Indiana. You're not making the tournament at Indiana this year. You're Indiana basketball. You're not. If you're pissed, like if you're a fan in Bloomington, you are not happy. And oh yeah, by the way, you got Purdue up the street. They're going to be a 1 seed. Zach Edey's going to win Player of the Year again, and Matt Painter's got those guys as a favorite to cut down the nets, even though they lost to a 16 last year. The point is, I think the expectation is, get your feet underneath you, get the lay of the land. But the dialogue around this program at Ole Miss in year 2 is going to be, who'd you bring in? Who'd you sign? Who'd you get in the portal? Were you able to grab a McDonald's All-American? Because Chris Beard was doing that at Texas. He was doing that at Texas Tech. This guy was developing NBA players at his previous 2 destinations.
He's got one, but you need more.
Yeah, you need option. You need a second option. You need a third guy. You need help. Look at what UConn's got. It's a monster right now, right? So it's interesting because I don't think there's a ton of patience once you start getting into like year 2, year 3 stuff. But the portal has changed the game, and all it takes in college basketball, you've got a roster of what, 15, 16 guys. You can now, and of those 15 or 16, you don't see 5 of them all year. They don't ever play. They're just there. They're on the team. They're in the program. So, dude, all it takes is a couple $1 million. And when I say a couple, $2, $3, $4 million. And you can flip a roster like that. Like you talk to some of these people that are around college basketball, and it's like, sure, what is it? Hunter Dickinson, the kid who transferred from Michigan to Kansas, like he got $1 million, but like there's maybe 2 or 3 of those guys. Everybody else out there, it's 250, 300, 500, 600K. I mean, you can assemble a roster. It's like putting together your fantasy roster for like the weekly golf pool, man. Like, yeah, we can go get Scotty Scheffler right here at the top of the pile, or we can grab a couple of these dudes down in the middle of the pack and assemble this squad. So unfortunately, like whether you like it or not, like that's college basketball. And it's a smaller, cheaper version of what we're seeing play out with college football. I don't need to tell you that. You're the recruiting guy. Like, you know what it costs to get these kids. Like, it's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it where you mentioned you got to get the top level talent. Because look, Jimmy's and Joe's in most sports, but basketball for sure. Because look at some of the recent teams, going back. I mean, 2003 Syracuse won it all with Carmelo and a bunch of dudes. Basketball is just 5 guys on the floor. So you get one stud or another guy to, Batman and Robin it, ham and egg it, and you can get to the Final Four. They got John Bowl, McDonald's All-American. They got a really intriguing Euro prospect in Eduardo Klatke who can really shoot it. But yeah, you got to go to the portal. You got to rebuild the roster because I think Ole Miss is going to lose a lot. So is there going to be enough patience where, all right, they're at 19 wins right now. Maybe they get to 2021. We'll see what happens in Nashville, the SEC tournament. But yeah, the expectation was you hire Chris Beard, you get to the NCAA tournament. Now year one was going to be a big ask because he had to completely rebuild it before the year even started.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's the day and age now, especially with the portal where maybe it kind of goes both ways where, okay, we're patient, but you can also use the portal to rebuild faster. We're not having to wait 2 years for this guy to develop, from Atlanta, Georgia to come here and learn the system where you can, look at Tennessee, just went and got Dalton Connect. And I think he's probably the difference between them being a Sweet 16 to making a run to the Final Four.
Yeah. I mean, you're not far off either. I mean, yes, you're sitting on 19. You're going to get to 20 wins, but you lost 6 of your last 7 games. Now, all of those losses, with the exception of one, have been to ranked teams. Like I'm looking at the list, like Auburn, South Carolina, Kentucky, South Carolina again, Alabama. Like the loss to the unranked team was at the hump to a Mississippi State team, which is in the field. So like you ran out of gas in late January and February when a lot of teams, like that's the dog days of college basketball, man. You're just trying to stay healthy, get to March, bring a little momentum into your postseason tournament. Look, maybe Ole Miss could win 3 games in 3 days if they got hot in Nashville. But as we've talked about, the SEC, it ain't your older brother's league, man. Like there's some really dangerous teams that can really get hot. And, it's tough. Like you put up 88 points and you're like, yeah, I feel pretty good about things. Well, you gave up 103 to Bama. So, defense optional. Like there's some things that you can work on going into next year. I don't think there's any cause for concern though, because the hard part for me, yes, while I understand your point about getting players in college basketball, the coaches are the stars. And if you can land a young coach or a guy who has proven that he can win. I mean, Chris Beard was in a national championship game a couple of years ago at Texas Tech. Like that's really hard to do. It is tough to get to a Final Four. We talked about Rick Barnes, man. That guy's been coaching 40 years. He's been to 1. So you've got a guy who has proven he can get it done, has proven he can recruit talent to places like Lubbock, which are far less desirable than Oxford, Mississippi, for sure. Yeah. So it'll happen, man. Trust the process. But you got to go out there in 2024. Once we get to the end of the season, you've got to have people that can back you financially so you can splash that cash and build your roster. So what will be interesting, I know everybody will be talking about college baseball on this show. once we get into April, but the moves that guys are making in the portal. And that's a very real thing, man. There's literally going to be thousands of college basketball players hitting the portal between March and April when their seasons end. And so if you're Chris Beard, you put together your shopping list and you go to work.
Yeah. That's Stephen Hartzell, Learfield, College Sports Now, hand in the dirt, talking college hoops. We'll probably have him back on here once the SEC tournament gets rolling in Nashville. I might run into you. I know you'll be down on Broadway. I'll probably run into you, at Roberts or something. We'll get a bologna sandwich.
That's a pass for me, dog. I don't know how you do it, man. I'll be like, I don't know how people in Nashville live in that. I guess you just never go downtown unless you've got people coming in who want to see it and taste it for a night. That would drive me crazy, bro.
Yeah. The rare occasion that we do is if we're going to the Ryman for a show.
Sure.
Which is honestly the perfect window because we recently did Roberts. And if you go around 5:30, it's not busy. You can get in, get you, a little sandwich, get you a beer, and then you can get out. And then you go to the show, and then you go home. I don't know how people do it every weekend. Can't do it anymore. Look, I'm built different for a lot of things, but not that. Not anymore.
Yeah, but we'll be hanging out between the hotel and the 2-block walk to Bridgestone Arena. That's where we'll be logging most of our steps for sure.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate Stephen hopping on here. We'll talk when the tournament gets going. Coming up next, we got Pete Nakos from On 3. We're going to talk some Jaxson Dart, talk some PJ life with his NIL deal with Nicholas Ayre. So big ups to Stephen for joining, and hang around for my conversation with Pete.
The College Corner is headed to Oxford. Stop by their new location in the Oxford Commons off Sisk Avenue. They'll have 4,000 square feet of Rebel gear ready for your trip to the Grove. On your next trip to Oxford, stop by the College Corner or our other great locations in Ridgeland and Flowood. Hats, shirts, polos, pullovers, sweats, t-shirts. College Corner has it all. And as always, you can visit us online at collegecornerstore.com. That's collegecornerstore.com. The College Corner, where your game day apparel meets.
Hi, this is Kevin Kessinger, former Ole Miss baseball player, son of Ole Miss Hall of Famer Don Kessinger, and dad to Ole Miss All-American shortstop Gray Kessinger, and your local community banker with B&A Bank. B&A Bank has invested 125 years in our communities, and we know the needs of North Mississippi businesses better than anyone. As a commercial lender with B&A Bank, my priority is Oxford, and I'd love to help you and your business with any lending needs.
Visit www.bnabank.com to learn more. B&A Bank, local, invested, modern banking. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The car buying process can be a lot. I know, I've been there. You just want to get in and out with a new car and the best deal. Simple. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford keeps it simple. They're going to take care of you, get you in and out with your new vehicle with a great deal. Their inventory right now is priced to sell, and what separates Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford from any and all competitors is they aim to address each of your needs with the utmost respect, care, and attention to detail. Contact them today at 662-234-8000. That's 662-234-8000. Stop by and see them in person at 2201 East University Avenue in Oxford. That's Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford to find your next perfect car, truck, or Jeep. Allen Samuels, let's be friends.
And we now welcome in Pete Nakos of On 3, part 2 of this Thursday edition of the Flagship, presented by College Corner. Pete, Indianapolis, you were indoors. That is good. I imagine it is quite blustery outside.
It was like exceptionally blustery yesterday. We had some thunderstorms roll in, and it was a nice crisp 30 degrees yesterday. So yes, very happy to be indoors.
Nothing to keep the busiest man in sports out of the NFL Combine, though.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate it.
All right. Let's cut to the chase here. We're happy you're on here. You broke the news earlier this week. Ole Miss's very own Jaxson Dart makes history with name, image, likeness. As you called it, one of the most jaw-dropping deals to date. inking with Nicholas Ayer. Yeah, first of its kind, pretty cool. I'm actually shocked that it has taken this long for somebody to get a deal with a private jet company. But, what was kind of the things that you learned through the process of breaking that news?
I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about the deal itself, right? Like, athletes travel a lot for like working out, sports, things like that. So I'm not stunned to see the private jet deal. But the deal itself, I mean, it caught my attention, right? Like it's not every day that a college quarterback is like flying across the country in a private jet through an NIL deal. And I know like there's always been all the hubbub about the Dr. Pepper deals and Gatorade and Nike, but like this is like the kind of one where you're like, wow, like the activation and then like what you get in return, like it's pretty high living.
Yeah, well, it says he can use the company's fleet of jets, as they put it.
Yes.
Travel, training, philanthropy. I imagine travel being a very loosely used term there. Is that for personal and, I guess, business, or is it strictly for NIL purposes?
So from my understanding, travel is kind of like personal stuff. Like obviously, I don't envision Jaxson Dart flying. So like I don't know. Do they play at Texas this year?
No.
Or Oklahoma. My point is like
Oklahoma's at home. Yeah.
Okay. My point is I don't see Jaxson Dart hopping on a private jet to go to a game. I'm sure he'll take the commercial flight that's been rented out by Ole Miss with his teammates.
Yeah.
So I think that just means like maybe some vacation time, going and seeing some family on the West Coast. Plenty of options there. I think the other really interesting thing, Zach, that obviously I'm sure popped up to you is they're Oxford based, right? Oxford, Ole Miss based. I mean, Mississippi based. So that makes it really easy for Jaxson just to go hop on a plane, right? Like he truly will have their whole fleet. Like it's not like they're based out of somewhere else and like they got to fly one in for him. Like no, it's just as easy as just hopping on one. So
yeah, because growing up, I'm originally from Memphis and went to Ole Miss. That drive is nothing. I mean, it's depending on how fast you drive, Pete. It's anywhere from 70 to 80, 85 minutes. So that's what most Ole Miss players do, right? They drive up to Memphis, go to the Memphis airport, and get on a plane. The first thing that popped in my mind for Dart specifically is I know last year in the offseason, he and some receivers went out to California and worked out there in the offseason. I mean, that just seems like this is the perfect fix for that, right? You don't have to go to Memphis to get on a plane. You just head on over to Nicholas Ayer, and he can take the crew out there to California and get out of cold Oxford in March and go get some work in. Did you get a chance to actually speak with Nicholas Ayer at all?
No, I haven't spoken to Nicholas Ayer just yet. Jaxson obviously now has representation with Everett Sports Marketing and know those guys well, and just kind of speaking to them a little bit on background about the deal. They're super excited. I think that while it is obviously a historical deal, I think there's a reason why it happened at Ole Miss, right? Because of the Oxford connection. And but at the same time, like Jaxson Dart brings everything to the table that a high major level company would want in a college athlete. So kind of the perfect mix there. Zach, let me ask you this. Do you think the other thing that I had thought about was like, do you think he'll send a jet out to the West Coast to pick up family for games? Like I could see that possibly being a thing.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I know his parents. I don't think they've missed a game. So yeah, I mean that just makes everything easier.
That's a lot of airtime.
Yeah, I mean, go out to Utah and pick up the parents. Maybe a couple other friends, family members, and come out to Oxford. I think that's a hell of a recruiting tool for Nicholas Ayer, where it's potential, future clients, maybe, hey, if you're as high profile and as talented and successful as Jaxson Dart, maybe we, link up with you in the future. And another thing that I saw in your story that I totally forgot about, this isn't his first time working with a private jet company. He was with Wheels Up when he was at SC. But yeah, I mean, it looks like they're really marketing this as like Jaxson Dart, our Heisman candidate client.
Yes.
Which, like you said, it checks all the boxes. Ole Miss is probably, I was talking in the first part of this episode with Stephen Hartzell from Learfield and College Sports Now and Hand in the Dirt, and he's all over the place in sports. And he was like, hey, Ole Miss is probably going to be preseason top 5 in football. So, I mean, Nicholas Ayer is going to be in the forefront with all of the marketing and all of the hype with Ole Miss and Jaxson Dart, because I imagine he's going to do some interviews about this because, like you said, made history. The endorsement deal is pretty cool. One of the first kind of partnerships, because I if I remember, the Brander Group and Wheels Up did multiple players at SC, or I guess it was just with SC.
It was actually at Ole Miss. They did it with the Grove Collective.
Okay, so this is like the first like player specific private jet deal.
Correct. And I think the other thing that really jumps out about this too is it's such a big deal. Like, you're not going to see Jaxson Dart just post about it once on like social media. Like, I'm sure that after maybe a big win, he'll be hitting up the Instagram story with an activation, or he'll be doing some interviews. What I am also like really jealous of is he can just like go wherever he wants on the bye week.
Dude, I was just about to ask you, do you think Kevin's going to let them go scout somebody on the bye week?
I know. Maybe they'll go, instead of like going, I don't know, going sitting on a beach, they'll go watch like as many games as they can in one day on the bye week.
Yeah, I guess technically they don't have to go to the game. Like, they could just go to Barbados and watch it on a TV, and that could be technically scouting.
I guess so. That's a very real possibility now, I guess.
Yeah, and his on-3 NIL valuation up to 1.4 now. He's got deals with obviously the Grove Collective. He signed up for the EA Sports deal. Which we can talk about that real quick. What's been the kind of returns on that deal? Have you spoken with any players or any reps of players, and kind of how people are feeling about that deal?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know a lot of people don't love the $600 number. I know it's a really divided topic. Some people are like, you should take the free money. Some people think that athletes deserve more money. I'm not here to give you my opinion, but I will say that a lot of people have been a fan of EA doing these side deals with players through open doors, right? And like Jaxson Dart announcing, and Travis Hunter and Caleb Downs, and I think I saw Ryan Williams today. And I mean, those guys are earning like legitimate, real dollars that make it worthwhile to be in the game. And the last thing I mentioned too, Zach, and I like being in the game. Like, I'm not gonna take a side on the $600, but at the same time, you're going to be more marketable if you're in the game, because for all we know, you might become someone's favorite player. And that's just something that you can't do if you're not in the game. And for all we know, down the road, that could equal NIL deals or a bigger social media following or something like that. So that's kind of my viewpoint on where we're at with EA.
I mean, I'm not a student athlete. I'm not a high-profile college football player, so it's not my decision to make. So I'm not going to knock anyone not doing it or doing it. In my opinion, and you're probably the same way, as a lover of the video game and just the whole aura around it, and how, I mean, people are going to be so excited when it's probably going to be it could be the highest selling game of all time, just because
there's a shot.
The hype around it and how it's been over a decade. I just feel like it would be cool as a player to just do it, just for the novelty of it, just to be able to tell people like, hey, I was in that game. Yeah. And like I was part of history. That's just kind of my thought.
That's definitely something I think that like a lot of former athletes who were in the game like continue to be like super proud about. And I'm sure they've held on to that game because they want to show it to their kids and things like that. Like, hey, I was in this video game. So yeah, I think that's another huge perk. And you get the game for free, which I don't know. I know some people are like, that's nothing, but it's like $70 retail value, something like that. So
I remember back in the day it was like 35 on PlayStation, so it's gone up.
Are you gonna play?
Oh yeah, I've already told my wife, like, yeah, I'm probably gonna be in the basement for a while after hours. I gotta get a PS5 because I only got a PS4.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
You gotta get that. One thing, last thing here, I do wonder. EA Sports should do, maybe they are going to do it. They should do something also where if you sign up for the deal, you get a custom cover art.
Sounds like a lot of work, Zach.
Come on, that could easily be done.
They're trying to finish the development of the game. I don't want to push them too much. I don't want to push them too much, but no, I understand what you're saying.
Don't want to upset the apple cart. We're so close to the finish line. I mean, that could be something for collectives to do.
It definitely could be something for collectives to do.
Easily just slide that thing in the sleeve on the cover of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am curious who's going to be. Do you know? They probably haven't told you, but do you have any idea or any guesses who's on the cover?
I do not know who's going to be on the cover. I can take a couple guesses. I think it will be a sitting current athlete. I've heard names thrown around like Quinn Ewers and Shador Sanders. I haven't like heard of finalized anything.
Shador Sanders makes kind of a bummer, in my opinion.
I don't know. I get what you're saying.
Not a knock on him, but I think there's better players.
Yeah, I mean, it's two of the more high-profile quarterbacks right now in sport. Sure. Jaxson Dart is obviously could be in that conversation. Carson Beck, or do you go like get a really good wide receiver like Emeka Egbuka at Ohio State? But at the same time, not a shot at Emeka, but like he does not have the biggest. I don't think everybody in the country knows him the way they know Quinn Ewers and Shador.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are a fan of the idea of a regional cover, but I have not heard anything on that yet to make me believe that like that's a surefire thing.
I think probably the safest would be just put Saban on it. I don't think anybody would get mad at that, but
I don't think anybody would. No, but
I do think the idea of a sitting player makes it more of an enticing purchase for people.
Well, it'd obviously be historic, right? Because all the guys in the past were guys who had just gone to the NFL or like left or graduated and could get the commission for being on the cover. And now you can't pay a sitting athlete. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I know some people have been like, I don't even need a regional cover. Just give me like 4 athletes on the cover and kind of mesh it together. So
yeah, or I guess do like the whole collage thing that like Sports Illustrated used to do with the NCAA tournament. That would be cool.
That would be, now you're onto something.
Just have a whole bunch of stuff to where nobody gets mad.
Now you're onto something, Zach. So
last thing, give me a quick lightning round here. Best meal you've had in Indianapolis so far.
I've only been here for one night. I'm leaving tomorrow, which is Friday. I had some good Italian last night.
Okay.
That's I had some. Honestly, it was not like anything super crazy, but it was good. Had some penne with some chicken. So yeah, it's been good.
That's good. Get those macros in. Well, that's Pete Nakos of On3. Busy guy at the Combine talking NIL. Jaxson Dart. Appreciate you, man. Safe travels getting home, and we'll do it again soon.
Appreciate it. See you, Zach.
All right, that'll do it for the Flagship, presented by College Corner. Stay locked in, OleMSpirit.com. We've got baseball, basketball, recruiting, everything. Get over there. If you haven't signed up already, it's only $1. And look, it's only $1, so you can still go get EA Sports College Football 25 when it comes out. It's just $1. So appreciate Pete, appreciate Steven joining us, and as always, appreciate College Corner making it possible. Till Friday, we out.